This video is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. All right, welcome back, YouTube. This is Eric. With us tonight is Burke from Bodybuilding with Aaron. Back again, the man who came from across the pond here in Vegas now, doing great. He's been on like a 18-month prep, busting out one competition after the other. We're going to get to Aaron shortly here. First, we're going to say hi to Austin, then we're going to kick this show off because we don't have Aaron for the whole night, but we're going to take him while we got him. Everybody in the chat, great to see you showing up early tonight. We're going to have fun. We're going to shoot the shit. Please start dropping your questions in the chat. We'll get those flagged for you. Of course, members take priority, but we'll get to you if we can. And Ryan, how you been, man? Good to see you, bro.
Yeah, great. It's been great. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for that. You always, like, I don't know how you do those introductions. Like, you do it really smoothly. I can't. My brain doesn't work.
Really?
You do a good job.
Radio.
I was a DJ for a couple of decades, so.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, I guess that would work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great to have Aaron here again. We're going to the Olympia this year. So Eric and I are going to come and we're going to shoot some content. And we're going to do a lot of content with Aaron while we're down there. So it would be great. Aaron's going to, I don't know if anybody here didn't see the legendary walkthrough that we had with Aaron at what was that, the Arnold, right? That was like, it was just phenomenal.
Yeah, we did the Arnold.
Oh yeah, that was the last Olympia.
This is the Olympia. This is the Olympia.
We did the Olympia, right?
Yeah, that was it. Transcend. Yeah, that was a great. That place had the best.
That's a beautiful restaurant there.
It was a good meal.
Yeah, that was great. So yeah, we had a legendary walkthrough at the Arnold with Aaron, and I think we have that on a video. And it was just, I mean, you don't get that kind of inside view. He introduced us to bodybuilders, and we just want, and we, what I always appreciate about Aaron is the cerebral content that we get, right? It's not these like simplistic ideas. He really gets deep into the mentality and what the inner workings of the bodybuilding community. It was really, really fascinating. So we got some really candid video with some of these bodybuilders, and we just talked with them, had really good conversations. So we hope to emulate that. Oh yeah, it was great.
You want a sticker? Remember that, Aaron?
I got so much swag from that expo. It was crazy. It was a damn good time, and fortunately, I mean, even next time we do this, Ryan, as well, like since then, the networking I've been able to do since coming to the States has been nuts.
Yeah.
It's been incredible. So since the Olympia, which was October, like it's almost a year already. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
But in that time, yeah, like networking wise is been really, really good. So sort of like approaching and interacting with a lot of the athletes and coaches and people here in the community should be a whole different experience. So like, just all the time we're just, hanging or training or at least just crossing paths with people all the time here. Like just today I met Tim, who's the owner of Absolute Recomp gyms, all those big giant mega gyms in Texas. And he knew me through a friend and through Jared, and Jared helped him source a bunch of equipment back in the old. So there's just this ever connecting web of networking within the bodybuilding community. And I think that's something I really like to push and share, is that the community in bodybuilding is such a good, powerful space. If you're not an asshole, if you're just a good dude trying to help people and do good things, and you're not someone who's just kind of really pushing hard to throw yourself in people's faces and get like these responses or reactions or kind of scripted kind of fake lifestyle. If you're just a genuine, real dude within the bodybuilding community and you have some sort of positive impact in whatever way, usually the community welcomes you with open arms, and it's a pretty awesome place to be. It's a very, very uplifting community, although you might see a little bit of, depending on what angle you look at it from, like maybe you see a lot more drama in like the men's physique divisions, right, where they're all at each other. They create these nonsense narratives, you know, comparing who's got the crappiest shoe, who's got the gayest shorts, whatever. It's just, but amongst like actually, you know, if you actually know most of these people, and especially within the classic divisions and all the female divisions and everything here, just amazing people. A lot of really, really cool people. The ratio of awesome to just avoid at all costs is like extreme.
Yeah,
which is in the positive as well.
Yeah, right. That's fantastic. It's always great to hear. And Aaron, you're incredibly charismatic, which you know is probably why I'm sure is a large part of why people like you and why it's easy for you to make all these connections. Like I can see that for sure. I mean, not only are you a great person, humble, but also just incredibly charismatic. So, and when I explain it to people, I'm like, Aaron, it's like you're a born showman. Like you, like sort of like Erick, you just go through, you take us through these, like where I would be fumbling over my words. You speak very smoothly and fluently in the community. And it's just a great show every time we have you in front of the camera. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I appreciate it. I don't know where that came from. That might have been a little bit of time on stage during my band days might have given me a bit of confidence on how to speak.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that'll do it.
Do you know what, though? I really think it is. I think I'm very much still, even now, 6 coming into 7 years of bodybuilding, I am, thank you, Ryan. I'm still in that honeymoon period. You know, I still feel as excited every day to be able to do this.
Yeah,
just going to the gyms, the accessibility of the gyms and the people within those gyms here. Every day I go to, who am I going to bump into? Who am I going to meet? And it might just be like at this point, I'm on first name basis with most of the people and athletes in Vegas, which is wild. And it blows my mind every time I see one of them because I go straight into fanboy mode. And then I'm like, calm down, Aaron. That's like the 5th time you've seen this guy this week. Just fist bump, nod, and what's up, man? How's it going? And then you want to come and train, and it's still getting used to, like, I feel more and more integrated into that community now, but I'm still in that excited young boy. Like, I'm a fan. I think being a fan at heart of everything around me and the lifestyle is, I don't know, maybe it just gives me a lot more enthusiasm to just really speak about these experiences because it's, you know, I haven't been in the industry doing the same thing for 15 years. I'm still very much on that. There's lots of new experiences for me all the time. And then I'm excited to talk about it. So,
yeah.
What you described sounds so nice for me. I'm coming from the total opposite perspective of that, essentially, as somebody who started training in a basement for the first 9 months, then to a Planet Fitness where I didn't really know anybody at all, then to a more serious gym, and kind of just starting to make an attempt to put stuff on social media more now. And also I don't go to competitions or anything. I've been doing this 3.5 years now, so it sounds nice. You know, I would like to be more a part of it.
Yeah. You've got to put yourself out there, man. It's one of them, I think. I know a lot of people are very, very recluse and they're very nervous and very shy about the networking side of this industry. And just showing up and being there, being a familiar face, putting yourself in front of people and just saying hi, having conversation, and doing that in the right way where you leave a good first impression and people want to talk to you again. And you very, very quickly build these connections. But I think
behind the scenes, I've done that behind the scenes. But this year was an attempt, you know, as you guys know, I thank you to Hormones for me being a part of it. This has kind of been, you know, a lot of where people are starting to, you know, I guess, know me from and getting me to know more people, you know, so I can get a small taste of that, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, just embrace it all as well. I think one thing, the best piece of advice I can give to anyone entering any kind of community for the first time and trying to branch out and get a good reputation is just be very, very open-minded about things. You know, listen more than you talk. You know, listen, ask questions. I think people get themselves in a lot of trouble by sort of forcing a narrative, and they're just, a lot of people have these big personalities, which are very strong big personalities, and a lot of people don't engage well with that. So I think just
it could be me. Let's see. We'll see.
Just enter it with like a very, like, I remember some of your comments and stuff from back in the day, and you very much have your opinion on things. And I think if you're in a circle of people within the industry having a conversation about whatever it might be, performance enhancing drugs, training, diet, whatever, I think the more and more people I meet, and the more and more of these meetings and little collaborations, the more and more I realize that what I thought was right is way further from the actual truth of what really happens and what really works within the industry. We can go into studies and things all day. The more and more of them I see, the more and more I see of them just being completely irrelevant in the real world. And I think that goes for pretty much every subject in this space, especially in this sport, in the health and fitness, in the hormone game. I mean, it's just an ever evolving thing. So I think just having a genuine interest come into it from a position of like curiosity, to just want to learn more from people that have been doing this on such a high level in different ways that you can imagine for so long. It's just like absorb everything. So I just make it a point to have a nice engaging introduction with people, sit back, listen, ask questions, and that is it. And then you can sort of form conversations around the kind of different personalities you meet. I mean, this is turning into like some sort of psychology, how to communicate with people. There's so many mixed. There's just so many different personalities, right?
Yeah. So, no, I agree.
It goes from, I know like one or two people to start with. It was basically, I knew Steve, and that was it, and a few other close friends. And then you come into that. Fortunately, Steve, we all love Steve because he's just a world of knowledge. So I was very well prepared for a lot of the conversations I was going to come into. But it's the personality types. There's so many different personality types, and especially in America, there's like this mix of different people from different places and different practices, and it's just overwhelming but very exciting. And I think if you go into it with like, I'm excited to see what people are doing and what they've got to say and who they are, what their perspectives are, it's a good place to start.
That is great. It's great advice. And I mean, Austin does a great job for us. Like, he really, he continues to blow me away with some of his, like, just how he's helping people and getting deep. I mean, Austin was a really intelligent guy, really understands these mechanisms of action for hormones, really deep dive. And you can see him just, people, he really helps people, and people are really happy. So he does a great job.
What he's done for my wife is crazy. Absolutely blew me away. All right. I'm not going to get into it because it's like too much of a story to get into, but Austin, she has only had that one episode last Thursday of those cramps, those peripheral neuropathy cramps, when she was having, as you saw on her spreadsheet, 10 plus a week. So she's only had one now since you changed up that protocol. So thank you. Great job, man. That's very impressive. And that's life changing for her. It truly is.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Why so serious?
Yeah. So why don't we say hi to everybody here quick in the chat? We're going to get busting on some topics and just shoot the shit, answer some questions, and have a good time while we got Aaron. And we're actually going to take a look at some of Aaron's reels, talk about some of his competitions, some of his most recent ones, and we'll go from there. All right. Daniel M. with us. Brother, you got the wrench. Do not be afraid to use it. Look who's here. Ruben Baca. Good to see you, man. I'm glad that you made it out tonight. Who else we got here? Chris Rubach. And we also have Charles with us. Thanks for coming out, Charles, and helping out, because you're really bringing a lot of organization to this business and a lot of structure that I find to be actually very, very helpful, because it gives me direction and deadlines on what needs to be done. So thanks a lot. Thanatos, good to see you, my man. Hope your parents are doing great, because I know that things are going well for them. And actually, I had you confused with Bob Opsel for one moment there. I'm sorry. But I know, yeah. Anyways, thank you for your recommendations too as well. Omar, good to see you, man. And we have a member here, Erick Bloodgood. Yeah, guys, Zoom meeting on Sundays. We might be switching things up. It's looking like Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Pacific is probably not the best time, especially with football season coming up. So we will be introducing a new schedule. So keep an eye out on that community page. Of course, we'll be making announcements for that. Look at this. Melissa is in the house. Thank you so much for coming by, Melissa, doing one hell of a job. And we got Memba Zionic. Good to see you, brother. And JB is with us. Braden is in the house. And of course, we got Ryan Parsons, and we got all your questions flagged, guys. Thanks for you keep dropping those along, and we'll keep flagging them. And who else we got here? It looks like Camel W. All right, got a new name in the house. Thanks for coming by tonight. And what else we got here? Buddha Zeus. That's Buddha one hell of a mix.
Zeus. All right,
Buddha to Zeus, and it. Oh, why are you so serious? Always coming by every single week. Troy with us also. Rascal in the house. Thank you again, everybody, for coming by early tonight to catch this show. We appreciate it. All right. So moving along here.
I got one thing I want you to do, Eric. I catch a lot of flack for this. Can you, with Christina, can you bring up the picture of all of us at the Paris restaurant too?
Absolutely.
That one pic. I got to point something out here. Now, Christina isn't here right now, but she may be watching this. Okay, do you see how we're all sitting here together, and I put my arm around Aaron, and I just left Christina just sitting there by herself and I'm not doing anything.
I didn't just notice that.
I didn't even notice that. Oh, that's freaking
like,
hysterical.
oh, yeah. Like you're all partnered up with Aaron over there. I'm just sitting here by myself. Everybody's got their arms around somebody.
Sorry, Christina. We were having a little bromance.
Yeah, we're having a bromance. So I get some flack for that.
That's so funny.
I just had to point that out. I'm sorry. Next time I'll put my arm around everybody.
That's hilarious.
Okay. I just had to point that out. Okay. Let's continue.
You're in trouble now, mate. Should have left that. You should have just ignored that completely.
Well,
could have photoshopped your arm around her or something.
She brings it up. So bros before girlfriends. That's funny. Bros before girlfriends.
Yeah.
Girlfriends is not the word he was going to say. He's just been very polite, which, good job for being polite and politically correct.
Oh, Melissa's saying, Ryan, she's calling you out. Yeah. Hey, Amy's here. What up, Amy? Thank you for coming by.
Hey,
oh my gosh.
Up, Amy?
Good to see you. All right. So, Aaron, yeah, man, obviously I haven't talked to you since the last time you were on the show, which was some time ago. And you were still overseas at the time over in Thailand. What's it been like coming back and going straight into the freaking Lions Den in Vegas and hopping in there? Because I don't really follow you on YouTube. I see you a lot on Instagram. And dude, you're doing like freaking, how many competitions are you doing? You just did one like a couple of weeks ago. You got another one coming up.
No, yeah, the season's over now, but it seemed that way. It's like an ongoing, continuous thing of like, oh, he's on stage again. But,
yeah.
Hey, look, the last time we spoke, it was all the initial excitement and the potential of moving to the States, right? After the Olympia week, it was like, I need to be in America. I need to be around these people. I need to, that's where the opportunity lies. And I made it happen. It's been a roller coaster of ups and downs, trying to make it happen. A lot of sacrifices, a lot of challenges along the way. It's not an easy thing to be able to immigrate, go through all the attorneys, immigration stuff, but that's all the boring stuff that, I've spoken about loads of times. Yeah. It's just time and money and patience and paperwork. And eventually I'll be able to stay long term, and eventually somewhere along the line down the road, I'll have permanent residency, and fingers crossed, sooner rather than later, the wife will be able to join me as well. But as far as coming into the States,
It's strange and so difficult though. Like this is if we want to embody or take a paragon of exactly the type of person we want in the United States, I mean, it would be Aaron, like a very humble, genuine person, who incredibly kind. Like, I mean, that's part of the problem. Like, why does it take so long for you to get an immigration when you're doing all the right things? Like,
unfortunately, I think everyone just gets put on the same kind of waiting list, right? So it's not, I don't get to plead my individual case. If I was to be stood in front of in a courtroom in front of a judge, like an immigration judge, like pleading my case, and I'm like, yo, I'm a professional athlete. I want to come here. I want to move my business here. I have no criminal record. I have a working wife. Like, or we want to take my money. I'm a zero flight risk who wants to live in America and be a beneficial part of society. And they would say, why are we even debating this? They would say, of course, let him in. Yeah. But I've got to go through the system as such. So it is what it is. I don't like to complain about it because I know the system's there for a reason, but I do wish there was a better system in place as far as, being able to look at people's cases a little differently. But it is what it is. It's happening. It's just going to be a little more time. It took a bit more time than I had expected, but hey, in the meantime, I've had a good time, that's for sure. So from coming from then in October Olympia week to coming here, instantly obviously linked up with Jared, who's my training partner, so we got straight into the gym circuit here, and just straight away just introductions, just shaking as many hands as I could, make sure that it doesn't take long before people realize you're not just a tourist on holiday. Like, oh, it's Aaron. Are you living here now? Are you staying here? And then you start these things turn into conversations. And then you end up building these really good relationships and these different circles of people within the community. And fortunately, I have an incredible circle of friends here in Vegas, and they're all, top of their game athletes and things as well. So that all helps, with these kinds of interactions. Business opportunities present themselves, travel opportunities, client work and stuff has been booming. It's been really good. I've got a great roster of clients now, competitors, and following Jared around on his prep, just being his training partner, I ended up deciding, do you know what? If I'm going to come to the States, what's the best thing I can do to make sure people are aware that I'm here and what my goal is while I'm here? And that was like, well, I might as well just do some shows and get in front of the judges as much as I can. So they're like, oh, it's Aaron. He's not just passing through. He's here again. Oh, he's here again. Oh, he's here again. So like within 6 months, I had done 5 shows.
Oh my God.
Erick and Soil. So, and they were like, oh, but that gave me the opportunity that each time if I made a little adjustment to my physique and it got even just a little bit better, or I was compared in a different kind of lineup, they were able to see me, in different lighting and different conditions and different stages and lineups. So they're very aware of who I am now. So next time I do get on stage after a good long off season, they're going to go, oh, geez, I remember Aaron. He did like 1 billion shows in a row. Yeah. He's made loads of improvements. So you're not just a fresh face that people don't know. I think that will definitely have its benefits because they'll have hopefully a bit of a memory of what I did look like the previous year. So meeting people like that, meeting all the judges, all these incredible athletes and people that you meet backstage, these high-level coaches that are just, everyone thinks coaches are in these like little secret circles and they will have their secrets and they don't share them. Nonsense. I've spoken with everyone from like newer, slightly unknown coaches to in-depth conversations with Hani Rambad, who actually sponsors me now, which is awesome.
Oh, no kidding. That's fantastic.
With Hani and Evagen, and then I'm linked up with RP. So I'm in direct contact all the time with some of the highest top-level coaches in the industry, in training and nutrition, in peaking protocols, whatever it is you want to know. But everyone is very willing to share. There's no secrets in this game. Everyone's doing very similar things. They just approach them in maybe slightly different ways, but the fundamentals are essentially
like pretty much like 2 days post show. They're doing cheesecake pumps, for instance. Let's take a look, man.
Every
yeah, right.
I mean, if
They
they're
have
not,
to.
they should be.
I want to take a look here at your current physique. Well, pretty damn close, anyways.
I wish that was current. I'm a little softer now.
That's all right. That's all right. We're gonna look at a couple of your shows too that were recent. That damn, you were close to winning, bro. Real close,
well,
right?
It was. So the first show I did was, I got here in December. January, a few weeks after arriving, I'm jumping into a show. I want to hit the ground running. I want to get my first show on American soil done. I want to get it in the bank. So I did the Legends show here in Vegas, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's a pretty small show. You'll probably do quite good here," because I wasn't in complete, stage condition for that, for any of them really. But I got closer and closer as it progressed. And it just so happened this Legends show was the last chance to qualify for the Arnold, which I had already qualified technically from doing a show in Bangkok a couple of months before. So I showed up to this Legends show, and then you got Anthony Williams was there, John Rivas was there, all in the super heavyweight class, and one other guy, oh God, I can't remember his name. But anyway, they're all very, very good. John and Anthony are both like the best guys in the NPC. They've both since turned pro. So they're both pros now. And I was up against so everyone thought no one's going to show up to the show. It's a quiet show. And then they're like, holy shit, that was stacked. So straight away, my first experience, like, welcome to America. You're up against the big boys now. And I'm like, holy shit, yeah, this is big boys.
Right.
So that was but it was great. That was such a nice, refreshing thing, because competing in Asia for like the 5 years previous, most of the time I was the biggest guy, and it wasn't really much of a competition after a while, unless it was the big international Bangkok NPC Pro qualifiers where everyone would fly in. So then you do, like, once a year you get the opportunity to be in a lineup against some legitimate, really good high level amateur bodybuilders and the supers. And I think the last one I did there, I came fourth. And then a couple of months later, arrived in the States, came fourth in that show. 2 weeks later, I went to do the Arnold Classic, which was an insane experience, just because we got to go on the main Arnold Classic stage, which was just, for me, I'm like, I'll retire tomorrow. I'm happy now. This is good. And I did Masters over 35, and I won that. So I think technically I can say I'm the Arnold Classic champion, and then just don't say anything else after that. In my class, in my not really Masters class. But it was still a great opportunity to be on that stage. And compete with some amazing athletes. I did the Open there as well. I came 7th. And that was what everyone said was the most stacked amateur pro qualifier they've seen in years. Like years and years and years. No one's seen such a stacked lineup before. And it was stacked. But it was an amazing experience. Really cool.
That's great. I remember I bought my plane tickets so we could come see you. Like the idea is, we got to get in there in time for Aaron's show. It's important. So we were good, and I found the tickets. We're going to get in, and then we're going to go right to your show and get there in time. Our freaking flight got delayed like 3 or 4 times, and we were like we came in 5 hours late. It was so stupid. I was so mad.
Stinks.
I'll be doing it probably again next year anyway, mate. You're right. There'll be plenty of opportunities. But yeah, that was a mind-blowing experience. And that was my first experience of going to an expo, and even just after being in the States for just a couple of months at that point, people already had sort of become aware that I was in the States. And I'm walking around this expo, and people are like, hey, are you Aaron? And they're asking, just having these interactions like, wait, I'm the fanboy here. And then there were people coming over and asking me for pictures, and I'm hanging out with Jared there the whole time. Jared and Dr. Mike and Hani did a whole thing at the Evogen booth. They had a queue of people that went round like 3 times. It was nuts. Yeah, it was incredible. It was so cool to see. But then having people come over and asking for my picture and stuff as well, I was like, it was overwhelming. I'd never had that experience before, and it was very, very nice. It was really nice welcome to the community kind of thing, So that was awesome. Shortly after that, what was after that? After that was the Jay Cutler Desert Classic, where I won super heavyweights there. Didn't quite get the overall, but I won supers.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that was Reno, which I came second in Reno at the Legion Sports Fest.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that was Nevada State Classic, where I won, and I won the overall. So, you know, I had some good class wins and stuff like that across the first 5 shows in the state. So, but it just gave me the opportunity to meet so many amazing people, get on some of the best stages in the world, in front of the best judges in the world, and it was just awesome. So it's really set me up and given me a lot of momentum and motivation to hit this off season hard and, you know, have a big impact next year.
Yeah, that's great. It's really fantastic.
It was a fun time.
I was just gonna say too about what you said. You should be the fanboy. You know, you should be the one going up to people.
Mm-hmm.
Coming just from my background, like I'm a bodybuilder. And if you're a bodybuilder now and you consume content and education stuff around bodybuilding, you know Vigorous Steve, you know, and that's where I know you from. So, you know, even before the newer ventures you said, you know, it absolutely makes sense, you know, and that's where I would be coming up if I was there. That's how I'd be approaching you. You know,
a lot of people,
hey,
a lot of people were asking about
because you're in a lot of Jared's reels and all that too, right?
I mean,
Jared pumping out a lot of content recently. So within Jared's world, the RP and the training kind of world, and a lot more of that American base has definitely come up really well from that. But initially, I think most people, knew me from just me and Steve, being me and Steve.
Early on is what I meant, you know.
Yeah, it's just, you know, obviously me and Steve were 2 peas in a pod for many years. So that was a good old time, a good introduction to the whole industry, and from being introduced to the community and the industry from such a good dude really helps. You know, if I was introduced to the community through someone like Greg Doucette, it probably wouldn't have been so good. You know, so I'm coming from being in very respected circles where there are great people that everyone seems to like. Just being included in that circle gives me a little bit like, you know, validation by association, which is, you know, I'll milk that for all it's worth, because it gets me into some very, very good conversations with amazing people. So it's good. And I appreciate everyone for those introductions there. They've been amazing. But it's just cool. It's just been good. Like I said, you can probably tell I'm in that honeymoon period. It's so crazy to me. Like, I'll sit there sometimes and I'm like, I do this for a living now? What happened? I know
what you love.
I can call Hani right now and I go to train with Regan, and I'm going to go to Texas on Friday with Jared and Dr. Mike and the whole RP crew and do this whole thing, and then we're going to travel to here, and then I'm going to hang out with this person. And my phone book, sometimes I'll just scroll through my phone book on my phone sometimes, and I'm like, how the fuck do I know these people? Like, this is ridiculous. And that's not a brag at all. You know, it's just the reality of how powerful, if you are really, it boils down to, are you trying to do good? Are you a good person trying to help people? And if you are, people will recognize that. And like I said, if you're not an asshole, that usually goes quite a long way. And I think so far it's going pretty good. So if I slip up and piss off the wrong person, I should be all right. But it's still just a wild ride, unbelievable ride so far. It still sinks in a little bit more every day, but it's great. It's a crazy life. But I'm having a good time.
I want to go ahead and show your couple of reels here and a few of your competitions, and then we'll take these questions here, because people are happy and excited that Aaron's with us and Austin's with us. We could shoot the shit for those questions here for a little bit. Let's take a look here, and I got it muted just so we won't get a copyright. Tell me about your physique here, Aaron. Are you happy with this? I mean, you look like a freaking beast to me, and you look like an IFBB pro. What do you feel your strong points are, and what do you feel you need to work on?
Yeah, actually, looking at this video, it's You know, we're our own worst critics,
solid,
right?
wow.
Sometimes you got to kind of look at it and think.
That's why I asked you.
You know what? Actually, when you do take a step back and have a look at your physique and go, do you know what? That's actually a pretty good looking physique. You've done it. You actually. This is the first I think year, the last 12 months, where I've seen pictures and videos of myself like this and thought, if that wasn't me and I saw this physique when I started bodybuilding, would I say, holy shit, I'd love to look like that guy? Like that's a legit bodybuilder. And the answer is, like, without sounding too vain, like, yeah, I think I've built a really pretty good solid physique. Like, that's 250 pounds of lean muscle right there. And I started off a lot smaller. And yeah, obviously there's definitely a lot of things that have to improve. That's an ever evolving thing in the sport, right? You're always going to be bigger and better as years go by, but we're always looking forward to, like, I need to be bigger here. I need to be better there. I need to be leaner here. I need to do this better and that better. And yeah, of course, but sometimes it is nice just to sit back and take a look and appreciate what you've built so far. And then when I do the math on that as well, and I'm like, holy shit, that's like, if I really did the math, it's probably around 80 pounds of muscle in like 7 years, which is like lean, like stage tissue, like 80 pounds of muscle tissue. Like that's it's somewhere around there. I wouldn't know the exact math. You can estimate, there's give or take 10 pounds, you know, who knows, but either way.
So
yeah, if I can balance that out as an average of 10 pounds a year, that's pretty damn good. I'm pretty happy with that. And for the shape and the flow of my physique, yeah, like this year, like I said, is the first time where I've kind of looked at myself and actually liked my own physique and not been like, yeah, it's all right, but look at Nick Walker. I want to look like this. Of course, we all want to look like that, but it's going to take it for you. The guy's been doing it for 15 years. So I have to take a step back, look at the timelines, look at the progressions, and just really appreciate it. Like, I just got all my bloods back again. They're all great. So it's another year of doing this, staying healthy, still being really on top of my shit. And I'm going to now move into my first lengthy professional level off season, which I've never done. Most of that progress has been built in and out of preps. So to have a full off season ahead of me now is something I've never done before. So I'm extremely excited at the potential of maybe adding another 5-10 really quality pounds on really probably back, chest and quads to add to that taper, that overall taper. And if I can keep my waist nice and tight like that, I think that's a pro card level physique once I do those things. Most people these days are like, oh, I thought you were already pro. Like, you look like a pro. Like,
I would have definitely thought you were.
In one federation I am, but but IFBB is the federation that matters, right? So we don't care about pro cards in other federations. But I'm very, very excited about the potential there moving forward. And it's nice to hear that, because at least there's confirmation that, yeah, you're doing something right. If other pros think you're a pro, you must be doing something right. You know, if there's other big high-level coaches that I talk to on a regular basis, and they're like, yeah, I thought you were a pro. You're not already a pro? Like, why are you doing all of these regional shows? I showed up to a couple of them, and they're like, huh? You guest posing? I'm like, no, man. And it's just like, I'm like, are you calling me fat, or are you calling me like, I'm not sure. could have been either. But it's just,
I hope you take this.
I think I'm right there. I'm right there knocking on the door of that pro card. So I know it's going to come. I just got to keep doing things right, stay focused, and enjoy the ride, and it will happen when it happens. You know.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Austin?
I was going to say, take this, I hope, as the compliment that it is. But I didn't even know that you weren't pro. Actually, you know, I would have thought that you just were. So, you know.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a compliment. I appreciate it. Do you know what? And I think if shoulda, woulda, coulda, you know, if I was in the States 2 or 3 years ago, I probably would be pro.
Yeah,
and I would probably be way further ahead. But being in that kind of Asia circuit where you don't have many opportunities to compete for a pro card, traveling long distance for shows wasn't really a financially viable option for me a lot of the time. But, you know, things happen at the right times for the right reasons. I feel like the trajectory that I'm on now, the timing of everything right now, you know, does everything happen for a reason? Maybe, you know, I'll go with that narrative.
Yeah.
When it happens, it happens. I'm in no rush. I'm enjoying
it. Hearing that, you know, the plan now is to a prolonged off-season phase, like a dedicated, you know, that's the goal. Like build masses, you know, and bring up the things you mentioned. Like that part got me revved up, you know, because there's so many different avenues to go down in bodybuilding. You know, there's a lot of creativity involved in just like how you can make a living with it now. You know, it's not just necessarily compete as a bodybuilder on stage and make money directly from doing that. Like the fact that you're still
yeah, I was just about to say that. Isn't the point
the fact that you're still doing it, you know, the fact that you're still, you know, pursuing it, like it's the love of actually doing.
Oh, for sure. Like I don't have to bodybuild, right? When it comes to the money and financially and business and things like that, I don't have to bodybuild to do what I do. You know, I've built a couple of revenue streams, but I think it's one of those sports, right? It's very unique in that way that you have to be passionately in love with this sport to pursue it for such a long time, because it will engulf your life in one way or another if you want to pursue it to a very high competitive level. You're going to have to, if you're like, I want to be a pro bodybuilder and I want to be a good pro bodybuilder, you better be prepared to give up the vast majority of your life to bodybuilding. And I think you're never going to be able to force that kind of commitment, right? You're just going to have to love it. And I'm very fortunate that I love it every single day. I love this sport. I love bodybuilding. So if I didn't, I wouldn't do it, because it's the craziest thing to do if you don't actually love it, right? It's ridiculous.
Your dopamine has to be wired, you know, the dopamine reward system has to be wired to nailing, you know, eating on a clock, things that aren't necessarily how our dopamine systems are entrained biologically, but you've just conditioned it over of like, this is moving me in the direction that I want to go. Nailing that meal, you know, this weight on track the way I planned it, or the creativity involved with adjusting as needed, you know, those all things, they feel so satisfying to achieve.
Yeah, to us.
Yeah,
exactly. Trying to explain that to most people, and they're like, "You get off on that.
Weights are heavy."
From that, like, I woke up on time, exactly the same time, 4 days in a row, and I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." Like, what? What are you so excited about? Like, you don't get it. So it's just these little things, right? And when you do learn and appreciate how important those things are, you just lean into them more and more. And the reward system from something that seems so small to most people, or so irrelevant, or so, you know, like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not fun. That's not rewarding. I'm like, well, that's why bodybuilders are only a very, very small percent of the population, because we're built a bit different.
Yeah,
a rare breed.
Yeah, more than
in more ways than one. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I just want to take a look at this next reel. Then we're gonna get into some questions here and talking about some training and whatnot. What are we looking at here, Aaron? What can happen when you don't quit?
2025 Nevada State Championships trophy, global formulas gift bag, and the title of our 2025 Nevada State champion to number 8, Erick. Burke.
It took me a second to walk up and get it.
Okay.
You'll see my face here. There's just a little moment there of just relief.
Finally.
Like, finally. And
there we go.
Yeah, it was
nice.
It was cool. It was nice to finish off the season with a win, like a good overall win.
Yeah.
Been chasing that overall for a while. The last overall I won before that one was the very first show of this whole long season, which was like May 2024, like a year and a half before, which is technically when this whole prep started, give or take a few little short breaks and reverses, but I never really came out of that prep. It was just an ongoing forever thing. But Yeah, it was bittersweet way to finish it because it was there in Nevada, here on home soil. All of my really good close friends were there, and it was just the perfect way to finish it all off.
Yeah.
And it was a good look as well, you know. I mean, you can't really see it on that sort of camera angle or anything, but we brought in a pretty good solid look, and it was getting harder and harder to hold or improve the look after 8 shows in total throughout that entire prep. I'm pretty sure that's got to be some sort of crazy record. I don't know, but it was getting harder and harder. I always noticed like the breaks in between shows to try and get further fat loss response, or you know, be in a position where I'm able to really tweak the look in peak week. Was you can tell when your body's kind of like, you know, this is your last chance.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
Hold it together for this one, and after that we're done. And I realized that at this show, and so I was like, just hold it together. It's just one more, get it done. And just went up there, enjoyed it, had an awesome time. Fortunately, came away with the win. Got to share that moment with all of my really good close friends here, and it was a good special one.
What are the length of time in between the shows like that? The
So the very first one I just jumped into like before, like very, very beginning of prep, and that was day 24, and that was just to get a regional done so I could qualify for the end of the year pro qualifier. And then I really got stuck into prep. And then the next one from there was, so that was show number 1. The next one after that was the November Bangkok Pro Qualifier, the NPC show. And then right after that, I did a PCA Pro show, which was a week following. So there was only a week in between that show, those 2 shows. And then that was, this was like right after I got back from the Olympia, essentially. And then after that, after that, I pretty much packed up the bags and I was ready to move. Landed in America, December 28th. And then I did the Legends Classic show in Vegas probably 4 weeks later. So there was probably a good 6 to 8 weeks in between those shows, and then 2 weeks between that one and the Arnold, and then 4 weeks in between the Arnold and the Jay Cutler, and then I think 2 weeks between the Jay Cutler and Legions, and 1 week between Legions and the Nevada State.
I feel like 2 months or something, like, you know, imagine 2 months in between or something like that. I feel like that would be the worst of both worlds, because the reason I ask is I'm wondering your strategy, you know, in between shows, like in the length of time. I think in between is going to vary that, you know, when you got a week between, you're not really going to do much except just
it had to be very planned out from it. I knew I was going to do a string of shows. I knew I was going to do at least 3 or 4 shows before I ended prep, because I wanted to get here in the States and hit the ground running, have some sort of an impact that would get me moving in the right direction within the industry here as the new guy. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to really leverage orals, for instance, for a very long period of time. You know, it's just not smart to be pushing them for that long unless I was doing things very, very low, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of that stuff was only implemented for very short periods of time before shows, and then pulled again. Whenever I had more than 2 weeks in between shows, I would always implement a little bit of a reverse diet to reset my maintenance calories, really bring down some fatigue, get fuller. Like I would get 10 pounds fuller and then come back down again from there, but hold in pretty good condition. I didn't want to stay in a deficit throughout.
That's why I was asking, you know, because that makes sense.
I would have been dragging so bad.
Right. You can't just
a lot of reverse dieting, even in the short term. Like I had to still continue to have a bit improvement from show to show, but then I had to be realistic about, okay, I've got 2 weeks here. How much fat am I realistically able to strip off in that time to then be recovered enough to actually even be in a position where my body's going to respond to any kind of peak. You can't pull all the way down and then all of a sudden recover where your body's going to respond to food again for a carb load before a show. Like there's whole sections of time that need to happen there. And yeah, it was tricky, but you know, this is the first time I kind of coached myself, you know, with a little bit of outside consultation here and there. Mm-hmm. So I also had the freedom of kind of like, I'm just going to do this my way. I'm just going to try and figure it. I'm going to navigate this the best I can without putting too much pressure on someone else. Because I think that situation, like, hey, I've just arrived in America. I'm going to do 5 shows in a row. Yeah. They're going to go, it's just, I can't put that on a coach. But fortunately, like I said, I'd been able to network really well with a lot of amazing coaches. So I was able to be like, what would you do in this situation? What would you do in this situation? And I'd listen to all these different perspectives. And then I would kind of put together, based on what I had experienced throughout the prep, like what's probably going to hit good here. So every single peak was a little bit different. And the big win from this season was I got 8 shows worth of data collected. Where I could say, look, this worked, this didn't, this didn't, this did, this didn't. So now when I go and hand that over to a coach, I'm like, here's a roadmap. All you got to do it. This is easy now. Yeah. I just don't want to deal with it. I'm too busy. You make sure I stay on track. Update the plans when you want to update them, and I'm just going to be a good old bodybuilder that follows his plans, and then all my effort, my mental effort, is going to be focused into my work. Yeah. Because that was the hardest part, was juggling all of that, all the question marks within your own prep, show to show, and juggling clients that are in preps. And it was a lot. I got it done, but it was a lot, and I don't want to do that again. So this is the last time I'm ever going to coach myself.
Wow. Well,
hey, speaking of preps, Aaron, I got this question here from our member, Zionic. He's asking, what's the best or one discipline you always enforce with clients that separates good preps from great ones? I'm sorry. Good preps from great ones.
Good question. So many different, such a loaded question as well. One discipline. That's such a hard question. I thought that would be an easy question at first, and I'm like, just one discipline to make a good prep. Do you know what? Actually, if I was to pick one thing that I think is such a massive variable that can make someone look really good or look really bad quicker than anything else, is consistent sleep quality. I think if you can lock in a really regimented quality routine of sleep, that is one of the most powerful things I've noticed. My sleep, fortunately, fingers crossed it doesn't change, is very, very good, very consistent. Bedtime, wake time, everything all the time is very good. And I found that my body was able to just really stay in a good groove. I was never in a period like, for this couple of weeks, I slept like average 3 hours a night. But then at this point, I slept 6 to 7 hours. I've never been one of those guys. I know that's a thing people deal with. And I think that has such a massive impact on someone's physique day to day. So routine based around your sleep, like a good consistent routine, including sleep, let's say that. So whatever your diet plans are, your training plans are, whatever it is, just be as consistent and structured routine with it as consistently as possible. I think that is probably one of the biggest foundation practices that make a good prep. If you have lots of variables.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say on that too. Like, so yeah, the sleep thing too is exactly what I was thinking, because, you know, everything radiates out from a good circadian rhythm. You know, that's the block that you start your day at the same time. If you wake up late one day because you went to bed, so you're like, I got to get 8 hours, you know, so now you're waking up later, and that's just intersecting with your routine and other stuff going on with your day. Maybe, you know, your girlfriend comes home from work at this time and that's the time you go get groceries or something. Like, things start running into, and then you're cutting into your gym time and changing your gym time, and you don't get the data you said, about the preps, like having done 8 preps, it gives you so much data to work with. So the discipline to have a structure, and like, it's not, when I say a plan, I don't mean like a plan that is just you plan the whole prep and that's it, you don't break it, but I mean record, so you can get those levers to pull for yourself, like, because to know that you pull the lever, you have to have something to compare it against, so keep your training the same, length of time, like something you decide, don't just go purely on feel, so you have nothing to refer back to over time.
100%, yeah. Because like you said, you can't plan out a whole prep, right? It's going to change.
Right.
But the changes that you make along the way are going to be made based on consistent data.
Recording,
Not, we're making changes but this week was different than that week, and this week was different than this week. No, like, if everything is locked in and regimented, it's so easy to predict the outcomes of the changes that you make throughout a prep. And that would be a great way to summarize the answer to that, is how to have a great prep, is those things.
That's how you get better at it too.
Yeah.
Okay, for Aaron, because I know you got to leave here in a couple minutes, brother. We got a question here from
20 minutes, I think.
Member Omar. Let's see. So for Aaron, do you think 1 milligram of IGF-1 per injection site, is that effective when on cycle?
Yeah, IGF-1 is one of these kind of gray area things, I think, where, in theory, if I was to look at IGF-1, like LR3, something like that, in theory, on paper, I'd be like, yeah, this is a great option to put, 500 micrograms to a milligram, bilaterally into the muscle groups that you're going to train. Like, when you look at the mechanisms and what should happen, it's like, yeah, this is a great option. Yeah. But then the reality of that in the real world is it's very, very rarely used. A lot of people seem to think it's going to have this massive, incredible growth response, but I think they definitely overlook the potential side effects and risks of prolonged elevated IGF-1, because IGF is the growth factor. That is the growth factor, but that goes for everything grows. And having that constantly elevated IGF-1 for long periods of time, I do think it comes with potentially more risks than pros. I don't see a lot of people in the industry using IGF and reporting, wow, amazing results. And I'll say the same thing for Increlex, seeing it's in the same kind of category. There was a time where we were all talking about it. There was a very brief amount of time where we got our hands on it. We're like, oh, this is going to be a big game changer. And then the reality of it is,
also,
it's not. It's
Increlex
cool in the short term, but
it's the only thing 250-pound men run at like 10 times less the dose of the actual prescription medically used dose. Like, I've wondered that. I've never used Increlex, but the mercasermin is like, what is it, 10 micrograms per kilogram, or no, like, I can't, the dose would be like 6 milligrams, I think, a day.
Yeah, it was like 2 milligrams in babies or something like that.
Who's
and in adults there was a bit more, but yeah, the idea, just the reality of the availability and the cost effectiveness of that for any normal person is just, it's one of them. It's like not an option. Same with the talk now about Serostin. Is it realistically an affordable option for most people? Is it readily available that you can consistently use it for long enough to actually see the results? No. IGF, however, is readily available. It is affordable, and it seems to be the next sort of, in theory, best option. Yet in the industry, amongst the vast majority of pros that I know, and I know exactly what they're taking and what they're doing, No one's using IGF. No one's using IGF. They're just using a good, consistent, sweet spot amount of growth hormone that they like. And then they have a really good sweet spot, consistent amount of anabolics that they have in place. And then maybe some people leverage a bit of insulin that will generate a bit of an IGF response anyway. There's more anabolic pathways around a training window that I think can be leveraged to get a better response and not keep things elevated too long and have the risk of side effects. So it's one of them where you read it and you go, yeah, this is going to be amazing. And then in the real world, it's like, it doesn't do much.
I actually have a lot of experience behind IGF. I saw it used a lot. I sold, in my empire there, I sold quite a bit of it. And it was a time when IGF was, I don't want to say it was new, but it was becoming more readily available. So more people were using it. And what I noticed just from a sheer vast amount of empirical data, and I also did the history because I was wondering about this, like what is going on here? So I actually went through the history, and it turns out that a few studies that came out in the 90s or something like indicated that IGF, it was mouse studies, right? And IGF in mice was incredibly anabolic, or it's incredibly anabolic in mice. And then when these studies came out, people read and it went through like wildfire throughout the internet that holy shit, this new thing coming out is going to be very anabolic and it's going to make people massive. And that was IGF, right? When it started to become more readily available, people still kind of held on to this and they thought it was going to be powerful. Well, it turns out in humans, it doesn't really do much. It doesn't grow much. I mean, and I'm talking about just the IGF LR3. I understand. And just like you said, Aaron, the science, when you read it on paper, well, hell yeah, you should want to use it. The problem is in the field, what we actually see is that it doesn't really do much when you inject IGF-1 LR3. It doesn't really, there's not a major effect. And like you were saying, in a smaller dose and prolonged it there for sometimes there's no effect. It seems like there's really just no effect from it. So it's not this incredible drug that it looks like it should be on paper. And just through thousands of people that I saw take it, like I stopped recommending it to anybody because I'm like, it just doesn't seem to do anything in humans, right?
For me, well, I'll take the middle road on this because for me personally, it was significant. And I've also met those people and I know them who don't get effect from it. Like, so that is the real, and I would even believe the majority. But a couple of them who I've just played around with, I've gotten people who previously said we're in the it doesn't work camp, reported they got really strong effect from it but in a specific context only, just about. You have to be almost like you have to be in the biggest surplus that you ever run to the point where you're starting to get elevated blood postprandial blood glucose that doesn't come down easily on its own. So like when you're building like in a prolonged surplus, 2 months in and onward, things really start to go off the rails because your liver's really outputting glycogen. Your insulin output actually goes down from the pancreas itself, and your insulin sensitivity is getting more and more wrecked because you're chronically glycogen saturated. At that moment in time, that's when it's felt like I've and the people who I've used it with have gotten able to keep prolonging a surplus productively longer, like a surplus phase.
So you're just saying, like, it's kind of dose dependent, and you need large doses of it for over a period of time for it to really have an effect.
Not necessarily large doses, but like when if you're like doing what Aaron's going into, I guess would be an example, like a prolonged dedicated mass phase. After like 4 months of going hard, things are not the same at month 4 and 5 of a mass building phase as they are at like the first 2 months. That's when I felt like I've gotten stuff from it. And
did you run it throughout that first 4, or did you wait until you kind of
I've done both
peaking right before you would say, okay, it's time to go into a bit of a diet break here, let's pull the calories down, clean up a bit of fluff, and then start pushing again? Instead of doing that, that's when you introduce your IGF, when blood glucose levels are staying more and more sort of consistently towards higher ranges?
Yep. I've done both. But yeah, that's, there's different situations for everything, but yes. Yeah.
And was that in combination with any insulin protocols?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with me personally, I need it at a certain point with how much weight I've gained. Like, I guess with my genetics, my body won't keep up. My postprandial blood glucose will be 235 fasted in the morning. But at the same time, if my response to insulin per IU is actually in line, it's, 1 per 20 grams takes care of me. It handles it. But I think that's just from being so glycogen saturated. It's output from the liver actually going back into the blood. So, my last peak there at the end, I was using 200 plus units insulin per day. At the end, I was using it like a full replacement, like a diabetic would, as if I was type 1. The IGF-1.
Is that just with meals, or is that with a base of Lantus or something as well?
It was, arbitrarily 80 IUs of Lantus. I never got that dialed in because I just kept ramping it up. I was mainly focused on dialing in my rapid at that point. It's like, how do you measure basal insulin, what your basal blood glucose is if you're never not eating anyway?
Because I asked that because I've had I heard a similar story, kind of like that IGF response where everything kind of needed to be hypersaturated before things started working. And it was a very similar situation with Lantus. It was being pushed up at a very high dose, but then the consistent level of being completely carbohydrate saturated all day, every day, is where they actually saw this very noticeable added mass. So there's certain things that need to be redlining for other things to work, where if you're not quite there, then I think there's just some parts of the body, there are some hormone responses, whether it's specific proteins or pathways or receptors that exogenously just do not work the same as endogenous production. And obviously IGF-1 is one of them where you have to redline some systems for that to really kick in and go hard, which I've never heard before. It's interesting. I'll probably talk to you a bit more about this after.
Sure. Because
I'd like to know a little bit more, because I'm outside of just the standard protocols, it worked or it didn't, very individual person dependent. I've never really gone beyond that and seen a situation kind of like that. So it'd be interesting to dive into that a little bit more. But
sure.
Yeah, I did actually a very interesting live stream with Austin before he worked with the clinic on IGF-1. He had kept track of all of his levels, all of his labs, and that was a great show. And we all learned a lot. That was wild.
Yeah.
You think there's an IGF-1 level of diminishing returns? Well, not diminishing returns, just I see a lot of people deliberately trying desperately to elevate their IGF all the time. Mm-hmm. And they can push it real high in certain cases, but there's just no...
From using GH,
Yeah, usually, yeah. And there's just no real response there from it as far as cosmetically. And then they're pounding a lot of GH trying to get these results, and they're managing all of these side effects from it. I can't even close my hands, but my IGF-1 level's 500. Let's go. And I'm like, but you look the same.
Yeah, that I honestly don't know, because when I've started using GH, I've never used less than 9 units, truthfully. For whatever reason, I don't get any can't close my hands. I don't get any carpal tunnel.
I think we first got to let Aaron be aware that this is that Austin's the guy that is not affected by androgens. He can run a gram of tren and it doesn't affect him. Mentally, he's the same dude on a gram of tren as he is off it.
Yeah,
I'm exactly the same. That's
strange. Wild, right?
That's what Steve's always said about me, and he's like, you're immune to everything. One of the cycles right after the Olympia, we decided to do an experiment where I've never run any more than 1.5 grams up to that point. And there's always been very basic inputs. And we're like, do you know what? Let's go hard or go home. And let's see it'll be interesting to see, considering you've never had a single negative side effect from anything you've ever taken throughout all of these years. Let's see what happens when we triple the dose and see what happens. And we did, we did the whole 700 test, 700 mass, 700 primo, and 700 tren, all at the same time with 10 IUs of growth hormone and a shitload of food rebounding out of quite a harsh deficit. And I was like, I feel great. It's normal. And they're like, what do you mean you feel like nothing? And it wasn't until weeks and weeks and weeks later, which the only thing that we noticed, which I mentioned on another podcast, was my sweat was starting to, it was almost like this just overload of tren was almost coming out in my sweat. But as far as the actual, it doesn't sound good. But then the first thing I did was I went and got blood work done and all of this. I never felt any side effects negatively. I slept like a baby, although I was sweating a lot in my sleep. I slept like a baby. I've always had very natural high IGF levels. I remember when Steve first tested mine, he's like, "You asshole! This is your natural levels."
What do you get up to on GH?
Dose wise, I've pushed it.
Well, I mean IGF. What is your IGF-1 max at?
Usually around 400, 444. I think it was around about 6 to 8 IUs.
There's a certain dose you take more GH. IGF-1 doesn't really go up. But what I wanted to test is if, even though the number on paper isn't going up of IGF-1, like, is there still benefit to more GH that you hear people say, But like I said, I've never run less than 9 IU. And like this whole past mass phase, I was running 14 IUs, and at 9, my IGF-1 was 585. And I don't know if there's more benefit to more, but I had it. So that was the logic for taking it.
Unfortunately, I didn't do any because I did go over 10 and I've tested all the way up to 20. And I did some very short-term experiments, which I think a big thing with growth hormone is duration of exposure. I think short-term exposures, no matter what dose you take, you're not going to see what people talk about when they talk about their growth hormone. So I think if I could put myself in a position where I could run a very consistent high dose for a longer period of time and then measure some levels along the way, I would be able to present a lot more accurate data. Unfortunately, I ran 10 IUs pretty solidly for a good 6 months, and you best believe it worked. And that was just regular stuff we had in Thailand. It worked. And now I'm toying around now with that kind of 5 to 6 IUs. I recently got some pharma grade Geno. I'm playing around with 4 to 6 IUs to kind of see how that compares with 4 to 6 IUs of generics. But again, I'm also just coming back on cycle. I'm just increasing my food. There's too many variables to eliminate. It's one of those annoying things where I'm like, I can't just leave it in the fridge until I'm stable. It's right there. I want to use it. So I've used it all now. So, but what I will do is I'll buy a few more pens. And when I'm sort of more into that stable off season where there aren't any other variables to consider, then do an actual experiment where I can present more accurate data. Because there's been a lot of situations like that where I'm like, I think there's something to be said for this. But again, like I didn't test my IGF-1 when I went up to 15 to 20. I was just testing sort of more, non-genomic.
What Julio says here, Liver King was on tren, I believe. And
he was on a lot of Omnitrope, right?
Yeah, well, you remember the episode we did? I demonstrated your IGF-1 can't go up when you're on tren from GH.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah,
that's right. And what's the mechanism behind that?
No idea, actually. But I got like 6 data points in myself and some other people that you can't really crack a 250 IGF, no matter how much.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, the same GH I was running, like I pulled the tren out 6 or 7 weeks later. I forget. I'd have to check the dates. IGF-1 250 all year long while I'm on tren. Pull the tren IGF-1 585. And I don't think it's just like liver stress either. You know, IGF-1's obviously made in the liver, but I don't think it's
just a trend, or do you think that's all 19 nors that could potentially have that effect?
Tried it with DECA. It might have like 5% of it or not, because I did get a 532 on DECA, which is lower than 585, but it could have just been normal flux.
So that's going to be likely related to estrogen, progesterone, prolactin pathways. Some receptors along the way there are going to have some kind of interaction that we just don't know. But
I have some like speculation, but yeah.
Interesting. See, these are the things, man. Bodybuilding, like you can produce all the studies on rats in the world.
Yeah.
You're never going to get more accurate in the field data than you do from the world of bodybuilding.
No, yeah.
Yeah. You know, apparently we're just a bunch of dumb meatheads that don't know anything.
Yeah, I know.
Rat studies are more important.
I have, but I don't know. I'd have to like check because I never consciously thought to look for my IGF-1 while taking Ment. But I've definitely taken HGH on Ment for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, one thing that just for the people out there. There's always a lot of questions about human growth hormone, right? And we try to give everybody the information. I've said this before, but you know, again, Aaron and I have talked a lot, but we haven't talked enough to really solidify these things. And when he says something that I have seen and throughout my vast experience, it's just like, I don't know, it makes you feel like, yeah, see, I knew I was onto something when I keep saying this. So exactly what Aaron's saying, right, is, and what I want people to understand is HGH. You know, there's a lot of questions about it, but it does take some duration of use before you really see the effects, right? And so what I've noticed is around 3 months is when you have to use it for about 3 months straight before you really start to see effects, and you'll start to see the effects at around 3 months. And this, of course, it's going to be different for everybody. I'm just using a generalization here. And then you probably won't peak until about 6 months from it, but it can really, and that's why, like, when I am guiding people through its use, I say this is going to be a 6 month commitment. Don't do it for under 6 months, or you're not going to see anything. At least 6 months, and try to use it even longer than that. But that's, you know, Aaron just kind of stated that you have to use it for a while, and that's exactly what I've seen, what I've noticed through thousands of people that I've guided.
Yeah, exactly that, man. I'm like, I basically, if I have clients that I feel like could benefit from it, I'm like, you're only going to benefit from this if you can afford to take this much consistently for this long. Yeah. If you can't afford to upfront buy all of that now, or guarantee you can buy it on time every month, don't even bother. Yeah. Or understand that if we're using this dose for a long period of time, these are the kinds of results we're looking for. Don't expect to be doing 3 IUs of growth hormone and then wake up one morning looking like the Hulk, having the greatest pumps of your life. Yeah. You know, but here's what benefits we can potentially see from 3 IUs, which is a decent list of benefits. Like, there's many benefits from half a IU all the way up to, you know, 15, 20, depends on how much you want to push. And then there are, you know, potentially diminishing returns and other side effects to consider the higher you go. But it's one of them. I think the devil is not in the dose. I think the devil is in the duration. Well, not the devil. The good bits. Everything's the devil. But you know what I mean? That's where I really noticed the growth hormone for the first time as well, when I was able to afford a consistent 8 to 10 IUs for 6 months straight. And I was like, this works. But that was fortunately a very good Thai farmer grade. Farmer, maybe. Who knows? It was decent enough to produce some results, and it was affordable. So that was the main thing there as well. Is like, okay, so and that's when I felt like I was able to just keep the rest of my anabolic input very, very stable, and I just continued to just get better and better. And I figure, well, like, doing those kinds of things, I've kind of always done that, but it's been in like spurts of time based on where I was living, what I could get, and how much I could afford. But I think I'm not going to say, these drugs are the reason why I've made so much progress and never really had an off season. But we can't just sit back and say that's not a factor. You know, so I think being able to sweet spot yourself with inputs where you're not redlining, where you have to stop, or not shooting too low where you're not getting a response, somewhere in that sweet spot where your duration of exposure on cycle can be longer because of the implementation of things like growth hormone at certain dosages for a certain period of time. And
even insulin, you know, which
absolutely,
is like the most dangerous thing in the world. But there's like there's this one story I just heard in like an Instagram reel or meme or something. There was a diabetic kid who, you know, couldn't get his insulin from the nurse's office, so the fire department had to like break it down so he could give it to himself, basically. But it's just like, you know, that's not me saying take insulin, obviously, but kids can give it themselves with the proper instruction and guidance, you know.
Yeah, and I mean it's like, sorry, cut you if I cut you off.
No, you didn't.
But yeah, people will definitely your insulin, you're gonna die in your sleep. You know, you're gonna drop at any second.
I've stress tested that.
Yeah, it's probably the safest thing you can use, and I don't like to say that because it's gonna, you know, I'm not encouraging people like, oh, it's a safe thing that's gonna help me grow.
I'll
if it's used in the right environment and it's being used with proper guidance and the proper way, where you're not a dumbass doing things at the wrong time and the wrong dose. It's silly mistakes where you hear these horror stories, right? It's those silly, dumb mistakes where someone's going hypo and they're panicking and what do I do? And they do this, and then they end up shooting 100 units instead of 10 units. And, you know, these little things. And even then, very rare does anyone actually pop the clogs.
The issue is different. Like, it's not even just going hypo isn't going hypo. I've deliberately taken 5 to 8 IU insulin IV fasted before cardio. I've dropped my blood glucose down to 3 milligrams per deciliter. You know, it's supposed to be 80, 90 fasted. I've got it to 3. But do not do that. But I'm saying if you do
disclaimer.
If you do that when you have glycogen in your liver, it's a completely different story. So just because you think you can go hypo and bounce back and be fine,
your body
will do that. Yeah, but if you do that in the wrong time, when you're heavily been dieting a long time, you're all the way bottomed out in your glycogen storage. That's the time you might not come back. So, you know, and
that's so rare, and it's such an extreme situation.
Yeah, right. So it is safe, but that, you know, that is what the thing is for people to look out for.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember doing that. We tested that one time. It was like a unit and a half pre-fasted cardio, and I get halfway through cardio, and that was enough to bring me like to about 30, and I would be like on the treadmill, like in and out of hypo, like kind of going hypo.
Did you
but
find
it was
that
like
works for you?
You kind of just get through it, and then you get all euphoric, and it's like having this like really nice pre-cardio, like intra-cardio trip.
I think it was flat out.
This is cool. But again, this sounds really cool. Definitely don't do this. It was an experiment. And I drank all of the Gatorade after that and immediately destroyed all the point of that cardio. But it was interesting to see how low that blood sugar would get, and you would still, if you just keep calm, relax, pull yourself out of it. Because a lot of people will have a very, very early onset. They'll be like, I'm going hypo, and I'm like, test your blood sugar. And they're like, oh, it's 70. And I'm like, you're not going hypo. You're going to be absolutely fine. It's just your blood sugar's never really dropped this fast to that low before. And this is a new response, and you're not used to it. But this is kind of like what hypo might feel like if you were actually going hypo. So it's good for them to be aware, but also at the same time, don't panic and eat 10 bags of Haribo because you think that you're going to die.
Yeah. Did you get anything from those fasted cardio protocols with insulin?
As far as fat loss is concerned?
Yeah.
I got pretty lean. Yeah. Would I have gotten as lean without doing that? Probably. You know? Yeah. But hey, it was interesting.
Right.
I know a lot of people will dabble a little bit in those areas as long as they're very aware of their responses and how long they can push that for, what dose, for how long. It's very, very carefully programmed. But again, I hear a few people dabbling with that. The vast majority of people getting stage lean, winning shows are not doing that. Most people are doing the standard, normal, safe practices of everything, and that's what actually works. A lot of these things are just the time of curiosity. Is that what's the difference between people winning and not winning? No.
No.
None of the top pros winning shows are doing that, so you don't think you need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it does something in some edge case or something, but by and large, what you said, no, that's not the norm at all.
Would I rather say we're going to do an extra 4 weeks of prep?
Yes.
And not do that? Absolutely, right? It's like, hey, instead of doing extreme stuff with an 8-week window to prep, why don't we choose a show 12 weeks away and do a completely normal prep where you're not potentially, collapsing off of treadmills? It's just, it doesn't make sense to do it. It's not something like
pulling fat off when you're already that lean anyway. You're not going to look as good. Like if you're digging that deep when you're already that lean, like
if you have to do that to pull fat off, you're
Yeah.
simply not ready.
Right.
That's just like you shouldn't have to go to those extreme lengths to pull off fat. You should just diet a little bit longer and do things in an intelligent, safe way. But like I said, in the situation where I did it, that was like me and Steve sat there going, I wonder what would happen if we did this. Oh, let's give it a try. You know, what should we have on standby just in case? Oh, okay, let's make sure we have all this on standby. And it, you know, so we're not just doing dumb shit for the sake of it. It's usually for the purpose of real experimentation, and we do it in a very safe, very controlled way that science should be done. I guess maybe just the way I talk about it sounds dumb.
No, I mean, that's dead on. Like sometimes it's not even about the results these things give. It's just what they teach us indirectly. You know, it's like what you learn from it.
Yeah. We got some questions here. Have we? What have we got?
Yeah, we got just a couple more member questions here, if you don't mind, Aaron. Here from Zionic, he said, you said that results leave clues. What early signs or metrics do you watch that predict breakthroughs or stalls?
Oh, lots. Everything. No stone left unturned. So I'm looking for, let's say, a breakthrough will come after a stall. So what will the metrics look that we're looking for as far as determining if someone is actually stalled or not? A lot of this will be big fatigue markers. So I have a whole long checklist of things that I'll look for there that ranges everything from sleep to mood to digestion to training performance to very, very small responses to certain situations and changes. I might throw a few things at people and just see how they respond, like attitude wise. A lot can give a lot of clues to how someone's mentally feeling. And a lot of this will be unchecked fatigue that isn't being checked. But if you're careful with all of these metrics that I just mentioned, and you're looking at these things week in, week out all the time, you'll see the trends. If someone's accurate with their feedback and their data, you'll see the things that are trending. And I will basically just make a little note, like, let's keep an eye on these. And over the next couple of weeks, you might see these things trend a little bit more towards where we don't want them, whether that be blood work. It's not usually blood work because we're not doing blood work weekly, but we are collecting a lot of data weekly. And then when those sorts of things present themselves, I will immediately sort of say, okay, these three things are telling me this is most likely a fatigue-related situation. And to bring people out of those stalls is basically just maybe could be anything from a deload week of training. It could be a simple thing like let's just drop cardio for a few days. It could be a mixture of all of those things. Let's really drop activity, pull everything back into a deload, push food all the way back up to maintenance, even a surplus. It could be time off of training. It depends on the individual's response, whether it's more mentally or more physically.
Yeah.
Will be how I kind of program those things. But I think keeping a very close eye on those metrics allows you to stay ahead of that because you don't want someone to actually stall. You just want to be in a position where you can kind of predict that they might in about 3 or 4 weeks. So, I'm going to push them as close, but not too close. And I'll pull them out of it and make sure that we completely go past that potential. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great info. Do you ever have to change the protocol, the drug protocol at that point? too. If they're stalling because of fatigue, like what? I mean, is there a situation where we're having so many anabolics that they've inhibited cortisol transcription to the point where they're fatigued, or if they're having symptoms of hypertension and they have like a fatigue from that? Do you ever have to change the hormone protocol at that point?
Well, typically if I'm building a hormone, it depends on how close to a show you are, right? So if we're seeing very, very quick negative non-genomic responses from, say, orals at like 6 weeks out, and I'm going to be like, whoa, that's a quick negative result there. Let's switch that, let's change and see what the response is. Maybe we leave them out completely. Maybe we only introduce them for a couple of weeks before the show, in which case, which options are best, which are most fast acting, which can we pull quickly. But in that particular scenario where it's more of a fatigue related thing that we're managing throughout a prep, the typical inputs, the clen, the yohimbine, the stimulants, I'll pull all of that and really let systemic fatigue, the cortisol come back down, because those things are likely going to be having a negative effect on all of those fatigue responses. So that's something I'll do a lot. I'll usually say to people in deload week, no stims, no clen. Let's really pull back. If they're using anything else, if they're cycling on and off particular compounds for whatever reason, whatever the situation, absolutely, I'll bring them down. There's so many different triggers to pull, but most of the time it's the same few things that can get people through it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that was okay. Yeah, that was.
And as far as like hypertension is concerned, that's something that I would say if I'm seeing elevated hypertension across time and it isn't very specifically related to a fatigue management thing, I would say that's probably more related to there's something being input that shouldn't be there. I want to avoid hypertension at all costs. If I see a spike for some reason, it's usually going to be like there's probably like a hydration issue here or something. That's a really low-hanging fruit. That's very common. When I know the people that are a bit inconsistent with these things, and they'll report, "Oh, my blood pressure was this," and I'll be like, "Is it? Let's do this for a couple of days, and then actually measure it when you're in a rested parasympathetic state, and we'll see what things look like." No, you're fine. But then maybe you never know. There's always going to be those people that are, secretly taking the little A-bomb every now and then without knowing pre-workout. And these are little things you sometimes have to consider, and you have to have.
Sometimes you just got to take an A-bomb, like you have.
But I think intelligent design of any protocol, as far as gear input is concerned, you should be able to build those cycles in a way that mitigates any of those side effects. Like you're not going to deliberately build a cycle that has side effects to manage, right? You essentially want to build a cycle that has no side effects to manage. That's not going to make someone take a shitload of Deca if all of their responses to it are negative. But I'm like, but it's going to make you huge, so just deal with it.
Take it anyway.
We're not doing that.
That's a great answer. Okay.
All right. Yeah, we got one more hire from
I'm ranting and hogging the mic here, guys. I apologize.
No, that's cool, man. Member Quaz here, Aaron. Do you make any use of peptides? If so, which ones do you like the most?
This question.
It's gonna be like an arsenal, right?
Yeah, just all I would say to these questions is I'd be like, give me categories. Like which peptides related to mitochondrial health do you like? Which peptides related to this, related to that? Because the word just peptides, which ones for what? I use various different things for various different reasons. But that's just for the sake of the trending topics these days.
Human growth hormone, that's a peptide.
Yeah, I mean that's great. So if let's say the mitochondrial stacks, for instance, that I think there's a lot of things that aren't typically peptides that are being put into the peptide umbrella. So I kind of know what people are asking. Although I don't want to be that. Whoa, that's not actually a peptide. I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm just going to assume you're talking about trending things in the research chemical space. So for instance, yeah, I really like a daily. I use methylene blue. I use SLU PP332. I stack that with nootropics like Noopept. I've dabbled a little bit with the 5-amino-1-MQ throughout my prep, which I feel like added a nice little added tweak, especially at those later ends of prep where it was really stubborn to get any move in body fat because of the duration of prep. Adding in a little bit of the 5-amino-1-MQ at that stage, I felt potentially there was a bit of added benefit there. We've got like the mirabegron instead of clenbuterol, so you're not exposed to clenbuterol type side effects for too long. There's so many. Now we have like an option A, B, C, and D that all potentially provide a similar effect. And I think it's an incredible and very interesting space at the moment. And I think it is opening a lot of doorways to really great health and longevity benefits if used accordingly. People are stacking way too much of this stuff together without actually knowing the pathways of the mitochondria and how they work. They don't understand a lot of at what stages this interaction happens because of this drug. You know, this medication, this research chemical that you're taking. It's just for mitochondrial health. Well, at what stage of the chain is that actually helping? And I think the more you really understand that, the more you can get a bit more fine-tuned with which ones you're using, at what dose, at what time, and then all of a sudden you can build a protocol where, holy shit, I feel amazing all day long. It's rather than like, let's just backload all of this into one pin and shoot it first thing in the morning and hope for the best. Like a lot of this stuff might be better timed at different points throughout the day based on how you're feeling, based on some real biofeedback. And then the devil again is in the dose. Start low, work your way up, understand the synergies between different things. Like if you're using something with a NAD plus along with an SS31, along with a methylene blue or a MOTS-C, you know, a lot of these things have a lot of cross-chain interactions. And
I was even going to say NAD with 5-amino-1-MQ, like, has a lot of synergy there because, you know, you're providing the building block, you're providing NAD itself, and then 5-amino-1-MQ. I can't even remember, but it's and nicotinamide and methyltransferase inhibitor. So it preserves more of that nicotinamide building block along fat cells, you know, for energy production. So I think there's like good synergy there.
Absolutely. And then we look at the transport chain and then what has a positive effect on what's getting loaded first into that transport chain, and then we can sort of go, well, actually, what's something we've been using for years there, like L-carnitine. Oh, okay, now this L-carnitine all of a sudden makes a lot more sense when used at a certain time with some of these things, and we understand a little bit more of the fat H and how that is collecting and transporting, and then once things go onto that conveyor belt to ATP production, how those steps happen and what we can fine tune. And this is when it gets into actual biohacking, and it's awesome. I love it. It's a really interesting space, but I think people have to be a little careful, a little more educated when it comes to very easily these days buying a whole bunch of stuff and then just shooting it and popping it and taking it. And a lot of the time we're seeing negative feedback, and it's like, yeah, you don't want to mix these two at that time and do this and do that. And
it has to work too, you know, at the end of the day, like it's going to actually work. So.
Yeah, it's great advice, Aaron. Both of you, that's great advice to look at that transport chain. That's what, interestingly enough, that's what, you know, you start to do. You look at the whole Krebs cycle and say, okay, well, NAD seems to work when we input that. Let's look at the rest of the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle and see what else we could input to facilitate and make more efficacious that transport chain that you're talking about, right? To build more ATP. I mean, that's a secret, right? Whereas we're trying to build more ATP. ATP is our body's currency for energy. So how do we get more of that ATP? And that's really good advice.
Yeah, and I mean, it's then we've got to try and make that digestible, right? because we can't expect every single person that logs on and buys some research chems to understand the Krebs cycle. Like half the time I can't remember every stage of the Krebs cycle. I'm going to have to look at my notes. It's pretty intricate. You know, we can talk about kidney health forever. I'm like, okay, can I remember all the different stages through all the loops through the nephron?
Yeah.
If I'm like, can I remember this? Like, there's very few people that have that kind of memory recall. And then there's some good peptides for memory recall as well. We can talk about that stuff. So maybe I should just take more of them. But I mean, so we have to think realistically, like, is every person that's watching this and all the content and all the stuff coming out about a lot of these research chemicals, are they realistically going to have a deep enough understanding to understand the intricacies of what we just spoke about? Probably not. But then maybe we can kind of compress this into a bit more of a digestible, easy to read, easy to understand guidelines, and have people out of curiosity want to learn a bit more about some of the functions and how they work. And that's what I'm trying to do right now with Brandon over at Modern Aminos. We're putting together a bit of a back-end course there on really how to, because amongst our communities, we can have these real in-depth conversations because we have a pretty decent understanding of how a lot of these things work. And I'm still learning a lot of that stuff as well. I was listening through some of Dom Couz's stuff, and I'm like, that guy's so intelligent. Like, I need to, there's still a lot I need to learn. I'm not going to sit here and say I know it all. I know enough to make sense of what I'm doing. Yeah. But it's a very interesting space. So but it's growing so fast. It's almost scary how accessible all of this stuff is to the general public that have no idea about any of these things. So I think we have a bit of a responsibility to try and put out as much content as possible, which is actually readable and understandable by just the regular person who's like, I just want to take something that makes me feel better. I feel sluggish and crap all day long. You know, I just need it to make sense, and I need it to make sense quickly. And then, you know, we can all use really simple, easy anecdotes, and we can use very simple, what's the word? I had a brain fart. I can't even remember the word for it. But we can just break it down in an easy to understand.
Right. I think that's a great idea for a little, like you're talking about, a little guide into some of the science behind what these are doing, and you know, therefore, hence, what would be some of the best times to use them. Like a little guide breaking that down, I think is a brilliant idea.
I think I might potentially turn it into a little course, like a very easy beginner entry level course that introduces you to all of these things, but then will just hopefully spark that interest into, I want to deep dive more into this. Now I'm interested. But at least an entry level, very beginner friendly thing, I think would still be very helpful for people to make better intelligent decisions when it comes to what they're putting in their bodies.
Yeah. That's great.
That is great, Aaron. All right, guys. I'm going to take this one last question for Ryan from Braden. Aaron, if you want to bounce, feel free, bro. I know that you stayed like 45, 50 minutes longer than you said you were going to, so super appreciate it, man. But Braden, here's going to be the last question because he dropped this at 7:07. He was like, hey, what up, guys? Did you get to me? So he's saying, what up, Ryan? Quick question. I pen TRT daily and microdoses. It seems my SHBG, although being 22, is too low for me. Free androgens and E2 are too high. Could reducing my frequency let SHBG rise?
Don't even. Oh well, sorry.
No, that's okay. Like I'll just this really quickly. Yeah, I mean, from a vast amount of experience, and everybody's different, but a 22 SHBG is usually okay. That's usually an okay. That's actually a range that we're kind of shooting for. And that's not bad. So I would have to take a look at, there's so many other factors here. I would have to take a look at exactly what you're microdosing. And to the answer to frequencies, yes, I've seen some people be able to gain more of an SHBG with microdosing. I've seen some actually gain a better SHBG from from taking 2 large boluses per week as opposed to microdosing. It really depends on the person, and it depends on, you know, what factors are inhibiting your SHBG production. So I would just have to take a look at everything else that's going on. Maybe larger boluses would work for you. I have certainly seen that. I have seen some people who respond better to 2 injections per week as opposed to microdose or taking daily injections.
I did. I've tried every dosing protocol there was. I did actually microdosed for 8 months, and then once I switched it up, those peaks really did help with libido and just overall energy. You know, I think for a while I was having some problem with aromatization because I was carrying a lot more body fat. But, you know, as the time went on and body recomp and all that, less aromatization, I can go like 4 days, but I actually am on an every other day pinning protocol right now. But really, I don't notice much of a difference from every 2 days, every 4 days, except I feel like actually my skin's a little more clear right now. Like when I go 4 days, I tend to sometimes get a little bit of a like a pimple or 2 on my shoulder or something. But right now my skin's nice and clear, so that's good.
Austin, you were going to jump in on that. You saw SHBG and almost come off your skin.
Yeah, right. I was actually going to react to something Ryan said, and now I can't remember. But yeah, I can't. Oh, all
you
right.
were going to say don't, and then you stopped.
Oh, okay. That one was something else. I can't remember that. But I was going to say, I think one of the reasons why when SHBG gets too low for some people, like you don't have that. It seems like fluctuations in hormones and levels in the brain is what can contribute to libido and like well-being and that drive sometimes. So if your SHBG is down, you don't have any buffer, and there's other things in the body that lower SHBG transiently, like high insulin intake. SHBG comes down a little bit. So you just ate. That's going to drive the androgens up because the insulin drives the SHBG down, drives the free androgens up, signals a state of abundance, like maybe ancestrally that's how it worked. And it's a good time to mate when things are in abundance, you know. But when your SHBG isn't there, you just have this is your level. You know, it's not like you don't get those little daily, hourly flux, you know.
Yeah.
What's something you've seen? What's something you've seen implemented into someone who would be on a steady, consistent cycle but wants to try and keep some sort of SHBG? Let's just say anywhere in the double figures. Like they just want to avoid single digits, but they are using a first and a secondary anabolic or androgen.
Aaron, you're talking to the SHBG master here, so he's going to answer this question really well because he's done it.
So I'll give you an answer, but I won't give you the whole answer because it'll just be too long. But basically, it depends on the dose you're running, first of all. But when you're in the super physiological dose range, I've been able to raise my SHBG wherever I want on grams a week. I can go from a 9 SHBG to a 15 or a 5 SHBG to a 15 in 3 or 4 weeks on grams. But this opens up so many other subtopics. I'm not using testosterone, no. Like basically if you're on that much testosterone, just what I've observed in myself and now luckily a lot of other people is like the testosterone, either from the test itself or the DHT that it results in, the SHBG relative binding affinity is so high that you kind of consume and sequester that SHBG up and gobble it up faster than it can get produced. Keeping your estrogen higher, that's going to help to the degree that it does. It's better than lower. Thyroid being up, that helps also. But there's also SERMs too, which I wouldn't recommend doing.
No, I've seen some protocols like you just mentioned. There are a couple of things that usually get overlooked, like T3, for instance, can have a pretty decent result on that. And then that stacks sometimes along with, in certain situations like tamoxifen, for very short durations of time can have positive results.
I'll just say,
yeah, I mean,
like, the thing I got it up with is you can run DHB, Primo, Nandrolone, Tren, take your pick, any one of those, but none of them aromatize. So what I did it with, like what I've been calling my SHBG protocol, this is like it's my baby. I've been like working on this for like 2.5 years, trying to map out what all the effect all the common anabolics have on SHBG levels without testosterone in the mix to kind of isolate the variable. But estradiol obviously has to be in the normal range that you would otherwise keep it at. And for me, a 60 picogram per milliliter E2 from estradiol cypionate feels the same as if my test were aromatizing to that same 60, but instead I'll be using, you know, X dose of Primo or X dose. I like other things better now more than Primo, but
you like a nandrolone based cycles?
I right now like
Tans kind of models. Have you tried any of them?
I have. Yeah, Nandrolone was the first thing I ever ran solo, but I did it differently because I used an estrogen base with it. With Nandrolone,
and it changed your voice. We did a short on that. Holy cow. It was like the masculinization of Nandrolone. He had recorded his voice like saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He sounded like a teenage boy like a year and a half or 2 years later compared to what he sounds like now. It was unbelievable. I made a short out of it.
Yeah,
strong stuff. Strong stuff. Like I'm all for it. I know a lot of people still argue against it. I tried it. I worked directly with Tayan just because I was interested in the way he was going about things. And my approach to all of this is like, hey, instead of just talking about it, just try it. Just try it, and then you have some first-hand experience on how that went for you. And like with most things, my usual outcome and my answer to most things is everything works.
Yeah,
you've got to find the right thing for you. So whether that's a nandrolone-based cycle because you aromatize way too aggressively, and it's hard for you to control that, and you just feel better on nandrolone, then why not just run an nandrolone base?
Yeah.
If you're a testosterone guy and you feel amazing on testosterone, but after a duration of time, we do see that down regulation of SHBG, free androgens start getting a little out of control. DHT and estradiol conversion is just getting a little bit too high all the time, which obviously DHT is something we don't really look at too much as far as, but the estradiol for sure. Then it's a case of maybe, test can be a great option for you, but you might be one of these shorter cycle kind of guys, and you need time to really come off, or maybe a very low TRT dose to allow that SHBG to recover and free androgens to come down a bit. And then everyone just has their individual thing that works well for them. And the more conversations we can have like this with different people's experiences from different angles, you can't write anything off, because at some point in this game, you're going to meet someone and you're going to go, oh, I know what will work for you. I know this guy that does this SHBG protocol, and that you would be a perfect candidate for it. And so it was just more of a segue to like, these conversations are good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everything works for someone out there.
Yeah.
I'll finish the SHBG thing. Like, I'm cruising now for the first time ever, and I'm on test, but this is only as of like a month and a half ago. I hadn't run testosterone in 2.5 years straight.
Oh, so now you're back on test for a cruise?
Yeah.
I'm using. You sell out.
Yeah. No, I've never been anti-test at all. Like, far from it. But, I went on it. I didn't notice any difference between having 0 DHT and not, for me, and the approximately like 24 people that have done it, because I've also restored test by like taking it for like a couple weeks in between that 2-year period. So this is a different thing, because with nandrolone only, your E2 is going to be crushed. It's never going to be optimal with nandrolone only unless you're taking a non-sensitive assay and you think it's good. But you're on 1,000 nandrolone, your E2 is going to be between 8 and like 12. You might not feel low on it, but I would argue it's not optimal. So I would argue it's just a completely different thing when you take an exogenous steroid with an estrogen, like a true estrogen base. And that's the part that's new. And that allows you to control your SHBG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I won't say a name, but there is one person recently that I've been very close with, and one of the biggest game changers for them, because they weren't able to really aromatase very much, was actually just exogenously.
That's why
just take estradiol.
Just take estrogen. You need more estrogen, just take estrogen. So you can't bump the test. That's not doing anything. That's not producing anything but more side effects. What can we do here? And it was just take estrogen, and the difference in mood, and just active and just daily energy in a prep scenario was night and day difference.
I couldn't.
So I'm glad to see that people are now, the stigma before was test, and then the stigma is like, oh, estradiol, stay away from estradiol. It's the enemy, and now it's like, well, you're probably going to see more and more people actually taking estradiol.
On professional muscle and like meso and stuff, at first I was just known 3 years ago as parabolic. Isn't that the dude who injects estrogen? But we had the same trend with like back in the early 2000s to crush your E2 with the AIs. It's kind of that same thing. But my E2 wouldn't crack 25 picograms per milliliter on 700 tests. So that's actually how I discovered it by accident. I'm like, I'm already taking estrogen. Like, what happens if I take Primo with estrogen?
Is estrogen sourcing, is that, Brian, is that something you prescribe for people that do need it? Is in the TRT space, is that becoming more and more?
Yeah, we prescribe estradiol for men.
Good. Good, because I think that's something that is probably massively overlooked by a lot of,
for sure.
In general, the TRT clinic, private clinic space is pretty in the grand scheme of things, right? And I think a lot of places are still getting their head around just the testosterone dosaging protocols that are necessary, especially in the female world. Guys, been pissing me off this week, but that's a whole nother podcast. But that's really cool. That's good, because there's some options there available for people that they're just, no one thinks to do that, do they? No one thinks, maybe I want to, if I had a bit higher estradiol.
I want to highlight how much estradiol actually does stimulate the production of SHBG as well. So, and you can see it. And I'm not saying like men, it probably isn't smart to get your estradiol up to the hundreds and keep it and let it go wild. But making sure you keep it at a decent level, like 60, even 80
to 60 range seems to be a pretty consistent.
And
people
that also stimulates the production of SHBG. It keeps your SHBG up there, and
IGF-1.
This is something I've got to be on top of, actually, because I've recently just started a brand new cycle with EQ, which I've never used before. And so I figured, you know what, I know I aromatase not aggressively, but enough where I can usually sit somewhere between 40 and 60 on around 500 to 750 test. And I feel really good there. But I know, obviously, EQ is gonna come into play there. I don't know at how much. And a lot of people are like, why don't you just do what you've done before if you know it works? And I'm like, but curiosity.
How do you, the only way to really progress is to experiment. You got to experiment.
I think
figure out.
We got so much time, right? We got so much time. If you do things right, it's like, what's the rush? If I do my blood work in 4, 5, 6 weeks time I've literally just started. In 4 to 5 weeks time, I'm going to do more blood work. And I'm going to know non-genomically if this makes me feel good, if I like it, if it's something I'm going to want to continue with. And then the blood work is going to show what it's going to show. And it's either going to be thumbs up or thumbs down. But if it's thumbs up on the blood work, as far as hematology is concerned, but it's a thumbs down on estrogen, now it's got me thinking, well, I am in a position, if test and EQ makes me look really good and train really good and feel really good, but I would probably benefit from more estrogen, then I can just put it in exogenously now.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll just say, experiencing being on cycle and having your SHBG go up, it's a phenomena you don't encounter in cycle design.
What does it feel like?
For me, I'm the first person that I am aware of, at least anyway. And I was on cycle for 6 months with test and nandrolone, and all the data that I gathered, like, I just exploded. And I've kind of just, so I've been told by some people, at least anyway, have, one of the more extreme rapid rates of muscle growth progression. I'm not the biggest person in the world at all, but in terms of just sheer rate of size, and I'm open-minded to this being not the case. Like I've said, all the mass monsters in the world have an SHBG of 5, probably less, so it's clearly not required to get huge. That said, there was a measurable, detectable difference when my SHBG started going up. And you have to wonder, it's like when people start a new cycle fresh, that's when they often report, everything feels on and like everything's just moving up, like in the way they want. That's how it felt to get my SHBG going up while on cycle, when I had already been on, at the time when things should have started been packing in. Like, I was not only just able to get more, I was able to get even more. And that's been the same with people and I'm glad now there's been guys who are 20-year vets, like who compete, who have been able to get farther than they ever had in just, a year of doing this, and including like illness cases too, people like with, severe post-finasteride syndrome even, or actually AI use. I don't know what the cause was. No idea. But, I just, based on what they've told me anyway, after that did it.
Aaron, Austin and I met because we both I did the SHBG deep dive, and Austin commented on it and then started to kind of highlight all of his experience with it. And we came to find out that a lot of what he had been studying himself and what I had been talking about, I've seen over time, where when we can do things to get people's SHBG up, they feel better, they gain muscle. There's just more anabolic presence. And then in my SHBG dive, we go into why we believe that is and what mechanisms of action, the non-genomic effects of SHBG are actually yielding more.
Those buffers in place, right? Having that general to really accurately send those soldiers to where we need them to go.
Well, and the non-genomic effects where it increases the coactivators. The non-genomic effects are increasing pKa and CAMP, which is phosphorylating the coactivators to actually allow them to grab the testosterone-bound androgen receptor and translocate more efficiently to the nucleus, bind to the DNA, and actually have the hormone cascade effect.
Have you found that based on that you've been able to see results with a lot less testosterone or DHTs and androlone with having something in place to upregulate SHBG at the same time? Or are you able to efficiently use more better?
For me, that was the use case. It was use more better.
Use more better. So you still went like slightly titrating up through a cycle as you would, but it was just way more effective than previously with SHBG in the mix than without.
Well, for me. And then with another kid who I've worked with, he's a 23-year-old kid, and he hadn't gotten a single erection in a year and a half, voluntary or nocturnal or otherwise. And, he was kind of ready to give up. And, he started this. He came off too. He came off for a period of time. And that is a way to raise your SHBG. If you come off, it will happen. For
That's
sure.
what I do.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
I just come off for 4 to 6 weeks and I'm usually good. But,
this is where I give for introducing me to it, at least, to know to even look for this, to teach me how valuable it is to get your hands dirty, to teach me the value of collecting data and doing blood work and testing things. It's Steve, because for me, he was the one who introduced me to this concept, that, not to take anything away from Ryan, it just so happens to be that I learned it from Steve. I heard it from Steve. Ryan's been saying it, 20 years. But thanks to Steve, like he showed me that there might be some value in SHBG, and just by complete accident, just being at the right place at the right time, I was like, holy shit, this allowed me to raise it while on cycle, so
yeah.
That's awesome.
And for me, like I've seen
Steve for lots of things.
Yeah. For me, I've seen people who, and I noticed, like I would just notice these trends of people with low SHB tend to feel like shit, and they're like, man, I'm stagnant, I'm losing muscle mass, I'm taking all this testosterone, I have this really high free testosterone. They didn't know anything about their SHBG, so when I look at that, it's in the gutter. So I wouldn't change their cycle, but I would just implement things to get their SHBG up, increase their estrogen, and give them some T3 or T4. And then their SHBG would increase. Suddenly they feel better. Their muscles, they're increasing muscle mass again. They said it feels like I'm actually starting a cycle again.
Yeah, it's those nice little resets. Like typically in the bodybuilding world, at least, that's what a cruise is.
Yeah, right. You're resetting your health markers, and SHBG is one of those.
We drop the DHTs, we drop this, we drop that, and just let things come back to life a bit. Yeah. And then when you do go back on, that ride on the way back up is like, let's go all over again.
And a lot of that is because your SHBG is recovered, and you're actually allowed, like we've been indicating. It's
now I'm curious to know what it feels like to have that recovery continue as you add everything back in, and as you titrate up for a cycle. You have this extra thing there now, this extra booster pack attached to the rocket.
Yeah,
and it's like,
and that's where Austin is coming. He figured out a way in the middle of a cycle to pull testosterone. Just use like nandrolone or whatever you want to use, and then just use estradiol. And because like nandrolone doesn't convert to DHT, it doesn't crush SHBG as much, so it allows your SHBG to climb while you're still on a gram of nandrolone.
The thing that shocked me is that Primo, which does crush, it lowers SHBG significantly. You take 750 test, 750 Primo, it's going to lower your SHBG more than if you were to just take aromasin with test.
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
Right. Whatever reason.
The trade-off for the, obviously the androgenic anabolic benefits.
Right. By itself, though, with estrogen as the base, for whatever reason, it doesn't do that.
Really?
Yeah. No. That's what I'm saying.
Because
the inhibition of
endogenous estrogen, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So there's no real conversion going on there.
That's right.
What
you kind of just bypassing that. So if the estrogen is there, and it's already there, exogenously, where the Primo would come into play is obviously that whole natural production.
The conversion,
So if that's not there, then Primo would never be an issue. Right. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely for sure. But
what I think it is actually Primo has a low binding affinity to SHBG. So the harder something and more efficiently it binds to SHBG, it's going to sequester it, consume it faster. But I think when you add Primo to test, it's acting as that aromatase inhibiting effect.
Yeah.
So I think it changes things in the way that it might also possibly cause test to convert to more DHT. So you block test from going to estrogen, more of it's going to go to DHT. DHT,
so you have lower estrogen, more DHT, which are two factors that inhibit SHBG. Right?
Exponential. Yeah. So you have,
So if you take test out of the equation and just give yourself the estradiol, then there's not as much inhibition of SHBG, and that can climb. It's really
you don't do both.
What's that?
Could you just keep the testosterone in the equation, then add the estrogen? If you
no,
if you feel great on test and Primo as that combination, but the issue is estradiol getting too low, can you not just back up the estradiol?
No, I've tried that.
The DHT conversion crushes SHBG.
Yeah.
So the SHBG. Oh, okay. No, yeah. Because
I found if you run 50 milligrams a week, you could kind of still get SHBG go up to a little bit, but anything even over 100, even with a 60 to 80, even 112 E2,
I'm
it's
thinking
kind of
this might be an exciting experiment for me to play around with now, because I've just started this test EQ experiment.
Yeah.
Well,
I've done it.
DHT is not in the equation. So if DHT is not really in the equation here, I'm thinking,
EQ is suppressive to SHBG, though, based on
Yeah,
all the tests I've seen.
Sure.
But DHB is not. And so this is like more controversies here. I believe I may have possibly discovered the reason why people say it's inflammatory and has all this liver stress, because I prepare these things myself, so I can use the oils I want and the things. I deliberately prepared DHB a certain way and got my HSCRP up to 12. And then with that, my GGT went up to 70. Mm-hmm. I induced the state that people say DHB makes me feel lethargic. It's toxic AF. And then from those same raws, I did it a different way and then brought my HSCRP to 0.3. And then my GGT down to 23 over the course of 4 months, and then back up again and down, so
with just one variable, just the preparation.
Just that, yes. I wasn't even on NAC. So DHB has this unique property of being able to dissolve in oil, but in an aqueous environment, like in a muscle depot, it's more prone to crystallization. And I know some people will argue against that as being a mechanism for PIP, post-injection pain. Mm-hmm. But with DHB, it seems to be one of these things that can be stable in a vial, but it's uniquely unstable in a muscle depot. Yeah. You pile that up over enough injection depots that are inflamed and are all PIP-ridden, that triggers HSCRP, interleukin 6, TNF alpha, all these initial innate immune system reactions.
What did you break it down with?
What's that?
How did you avoid the crystallization?
80 milligrams per ml, or believe it or not, this one I kind of want to keep to myself because
you can do this privately. We can do this on a separate phone call if you want. Because I've had this very same conversation with a couple of people now on DHB.
Oh, okay, cool.
And before I dived into the EQ world.
Yeah.
So
I like it, by the way. But you mix if you mix certain carrier oils together, you don't just get the sum solvent power of the two. Like you mix a good solvent with a low one, you'd think you'd get somewhere in the middle. No, it's actually possible to get something even stronger of a solvent than the original one. Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool. Do you think that was making DHB specifically?
With DHB, you don't really actually need to do that much. You can do it with just regular grapeseed oil, MCT oil.
Oh, okay.
Especially if it's 80 milligrams per ml.
You just have it a low concentration. Right? So
I wonder what the way
to right, Ryan. With Primo Ace, I actually got Primo acetate to be able to be taken with that mix of carrier oils, though. Primo Ace is very difficult to make not light you on fire and be unusable. But I really needed to make that one work for me.
So have you seen the because as far as I'm aware, the EQs 5-hour reduced into the DHB endogenously as a natural production, although the EQ is exogenous, but that system in play doesn't have as much of an effect on SHBG as DHT.
Well, DHB has a low, almost non-existent binding affinity to SHBG. It just so happens that boldenone does have a high SHBG binding affinity. So the difference between the DHB 5-alpha reduced metabolite is DHT has a 100 SHBG binding affinity, whereas DHB is like nothing. Yeah. It's actually a rare case where the parent hormone itself actually has higher SHBG binding affinity than the DHB.
But it's the boldenone itself that's going to have, it's pretty much, from what I've seen, not as bad as Primo, but similar to a Masteron as far as what it does to your SHBG over a dose for dose.
Yeah, with test, and then go figure it's the opposite. Primo without test, with just Primo and estradiol, doesn't suppress SHBG.
Yeah.
Primo with the EQ with estradiol does, and then it's interesting. It's odd that the script kind of flips, but that's why I've spent so much time on it, untangling it and doing all these tests.
This is why we say over and over again, right? You can do as many rat studies as you want. You can do as much AI comparisons on studies as you want. Yeah. You're not gonna get the same.
You have to become the rat.
Yeah, I like that.
But people are like,
that's
what about
a good one.
study?
I love that.
But this study says this, and I'm like, dude, I am a walking study. Take a seat, buddy. You're talking of a 260-pound lab rat.
Grab a pad of paper and a pen because shit's about to get serious right here.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting thing. Like a lot of the time, as we've said many times before, it just doesn't what looks typically. Oh, this is what should happen on paper, and then in the real world, you're like, what's going on here? Yeah. And then again, like people deep diving down more specific routes, like Austin in the SHBG pathways, and it's cool. It's really, really cool. I think I'll drop you a message later, Austin, because I want to pick your brains on a few things.
Okay, yeah, anytime, man.
Become the rat. That is a good show.
Right.
Where we are the rat. Come to Hormones
you
for
can take
Me,
it. You
where
can
we
take
are the rats.
If I make it, it's not going to sell much right now. You got that.
As long as it gets me jacked this off season, I'll take any advice I can get.
Yeah.
But Ryan, put me in a prescription for a shitload of estrogen, will you?
Yeah, we got you. We got you.
Brother up.
Yeah,
guys, I'm sorry, but I do have to jump off. I put my meeting back a while, but it's coming up now to 5:30, so I've got to get ready for it.
Hey, we really appreciate you coming on, man. Truly, it was a good time, man.
Anytime. Yeah,
and I'll see you in October. I look forward to meeting you. I'll be your fanboy.
Come on over, man. Come on over. We'll all link up. We'll have a good time. Have a good time in Vegas. But if you ever want my meathead to come on here and rant away as I do anytime, just let me know, man.
We love it. We'll certainly, we're good. We'll
enjoy it again. Good topics, good chats.
Yeah.
Sorry if I hogged the mic too much.
No, that's why you're the guest, bro. You're the headliner here tonight.
I get carried away. But it's fun. It was nice.
It was good to see you, man.
Up in Austin as well, man.
It's good to meet you.
For a long time.
Yeah. Ryan will give you his number so you guys can text back and forth, whatever. He can send you DMs. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I do.
All right. Yeah. So, guys, please hit that like button out there, and we have Aaron's socials in the description box. Please check him out on IG and on YouTube. Follow Aaron, and go ahead, Aaron. Say. We'll see you later, brother.
Much appreciated, guys. I'll see you next time.
All right.
See ya.
Thanks again, Aaron.
All right. Take care, man.
One thing I wanted to do, and I know we've been on here for so long, but I did want to get this question answered just because Damien is I don't even know, I can't give HIPAA violation, but I wanted this one
question.
I was gonna do it
from Damien. I saw some one.
Wait, sorry, it's this one right here. So you were this is on Austin. You were talking about glucose levels.
So what the reason for doing this? This is complicated. I'll go simple first. Let me try and think. All right. So there's two reasons for this. There's enhanced fat loss we're after during a cutting phase and muscle preservation. I should have started with this is not applicable to anybody possibly ever, but also especially not as like you're actively trying to be 360 pounds shredded, So you are fasted and you do cardio. People say fasted cardio doesn't burn more fat than fed cardio, but when you're leveraging GH, you're leveraging directly hormone sensitive lipase to make fat cells spill fat to burn as fuel. What also happens is even when you're fasted, you have glycogen stored in your muscles and in the liver. So instead of working to burn fat when you're doing fasted cardio, you have to first work through all that liver glycogen. When you take insulin fasted, you go hypo, and then the reaction hormone to that being hypo is glucagon. So glucagon tells your liver to dump all your glycogen. So you start fueling your fasted cardio session with your actual liver glycogen to burn directly to the fat loss, while also protecting your muscles from catabolism, because you've now raised your blood sugar with your own stored glycogen.
Yeah.
Plus, insulin is anti-catabolic. When insulin is present, you are less likely to catabolize amino acids.
Yeah. I mean, mainly because it's pushing up the glucose into your muscles. That's the first place it pushes it, right? But yeah.
Right.
Okay. That's really interesting. Damien just authorized us for a HIPAA violation. So,
from Braden here, he had 2 questions that he dropped earlier, and I know we answered one, and he just hopped on. He's like, "Hey, did you guys answer my question?" So why don't we tackle this here before we get going, and see if we can cover both his questions for him. Lowering his dose caused him androgenic side effects for him, ironically, I believe, because he too dropped lowering SHBG further despite decrease in dose. Thanks in advance. I'm not really sure what the question is.
Complicated. It could be like his SHBG went down despite taking less. Like less, you would think.
Okay.
But I guess I would just want to look at the timeline to see how like tightly that was, to see if it was really due to that. I'm not ruling it out, but it's interesting. I don't know. It's a detailed one. We might have to get more details.
We would need a lot more details in that one. But his question did spur like an hour-long SHBG conversation. So
yeah.
So his question is where we went into that huge SHBG.
That's right. Yeah.
So we answered his question sort of, and then went on more on the topic of SHBG for like an hour.
He can hit me up on Instagram if he wants to go in depth with them.
Yeah,
Braden. Yeah, so Braden, if you're still watching, Parabolic 33 on Instagram, you can ask him.
His links will be in the box. And I want to say, guys, that.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to do.
Oh no, I just wanted to let everybody know about all these questions because we still have 12 more. We're going to be having another Q&A next week. So I'm going to be making sure that we still have these questions for you because, we just got inundated and there's just no way we could possibly get to them all.
Yeah.
Show
up. So show up next week and everybody, and we'll answer your questions here. Actually, we could just probably end on that because I think there's a couple important ones here that I did want to answer.
Do what you got to do, Ryan. I was just letting them know, like, because there's just way too many questions.
Good. Let's answer them next week. So everybody here, show up next week, and we'll answer your questions. But there's a couple of good ones here that I think are important. But we'll answer them next week. Let's do that.
Yeah, that'll work. Let's see. All right, so let me just copy this here before we go, and we will say take care and have a great week, guys. Next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be back with Austin and a guest here who's just opened up a bodybuilding channel. He was actually going to be on this week, and thankfully Aaron was able to fill in because he wasn't able to make it. We do appreciate everybody coming out each week. There is a lot going on. We are not even going to say what we're doing, but platforms are down and they're going to be opening up again really soon. We're also going to be branching off as a new channel. All right. It's going to be on the way as well. Hormones for Me is still going to be here. We're still going to be doing the weekly stream, but we're going to get more into that in the weeks and months ahead. We got the Olympia coming up in October. And besides that, things are going great. Things are starting to really pick up. We're getting busy, and we're going to have a lot of fun with new content. And Ryan taking on some new roles as podcast and being the headline main stage guy that he is. So we'll be getting into that. And like I said, weeks and months ahead. All right, Austin, appreciate you coming out too, bro. Why don't you guys say good night to everybody, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, good night, guys. Thank you for all the questions. Just keep asking SHBG questions. Just kidding. But yeah, thanks, guys. Good night.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Everybody here is the reason. Well, it's the reason we do this. It's the reason why the show runs for how long? 2.5 hours? Because we really want to. Yeah. We really appreciate.
And Aaron was like, I can only stay for an hour.
He stayed for 2 hours.
Stayed for like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
All right. Thanks, everyone. There's another question there I just got from Ultra. We'll answer that next week, but that's a good one. No SHBG isn't. We'll answer it next week.
Yeah, Ultra. Sorry, man. Yeah, we're just out of time tonight. But thanks again, guys. We will see you guys next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. Have a great night. Take care.